Thank you for joining. Today, we're tackling a fascinating question. Did Ibn Arabi, the famous Sufi mystic, believe Islam was the only path to salvation? Or was he open to other religions? Great topic. I'm Zubair from Zubair's Bookshelf. Yes, I am real. So let's get to it. Before we do, how many podcasts will I be doing? Twice a month. One will be like this, a book review, and the other, the book's author's interview. This format ensures everyone has some understanding of the book before interviewing the author. I will likely add even more podcasts with even more book reviews. Perfect. So what's the book we're focusing on today? Today, it's Ibn Arabi's Religious Pluralism, Levels of Inclusivity by Dr. Faris Abdel-hadi. Who is Dr. Abdel-hadi? He is a male who did his PhD from the University of Exeter, where he focused on Ibn Arabi's views on other religions, especially non-monotheistic ones. He's an expert on the topic, and he's even lectured around the world. His supervisor was Dr. Sajjad Rizvi, a Mullah Sadra specialist. Awesome. And when is this book coming out? It's set to release on December 20th, 2024, as a Routledge website says, though it might be out sooner based on correspondence I received from the author just a few days ago. Make sure to buy your copy. What's the book's structure like? It's pretty straightforward. It has a foreword, endorsements, and acknowledgments, then moves into an introduction, 5 chapters, a conclusion, and a bibliography covering some 308 pages. Who was Ibn Arabi anyway? Ibn Arabi was a Muslim mystic, poet, philosopher, and many other things, born in 1165 in Al-Andalus. He is hugely influential in Islamic thought, especially in Sufism. Some see him as a saint, while others find his views controversial and repugnant. He traveled widely across the Muslim world, including to Anatolia and Mecca, and settled in Damascus, where he passed away in or around 1240. Now that you know a little bit about Ibn Arabi, what is the big debate around him that this book addresses? Good question. Scholars have debated whether Ibn Arabi was an exclusivist, meaning he believed only Islam leads to salvation, or a pluralist who saw value in other faiths. Dr. Abdel-hadi's book argues that Ibn Arabi's stance is actually more nuanced than that. So he says Ibn Arabi believes in inclusivism, meaning Islam is central, but there's room for other religions under certain circumstances. How does the author structure his book to make this argument? So, the first 3 chapters set up his main argument. Chapter 1, The Muhammadan Way, discusses how Islam abrogates or replaces earlier scriptures, that is, the revealed scriptures of past, which might make Ibn Arabi sound exclusivist. So the word annihilation is discussed here. So just look at annihilation as synonymous with abrogation. And this is where those who have an exclusivist-only reading of Ibn Arabi stop, the author says. But in chapter 2, mercy and jizya being the poll tax Christians, Jews, and others paid to Muslims under Muslim rule, in this chapter, Dr. Abdel-hadi shows how Ibn Arabi saw other religions, like Christianity and Judaism, as subsisting or having value even under Islamic rule through, for example, the payment of jizya. So Ibn Arabi's views of salvation, according to the author, is they are nuanced and in neither of the 2 extremes of full exclusion or full pluralism. Rather, they both work together: annihilation, abrogation, and subsistence. Let the author speak and explain that a little bit more. The religions are firstly annihilated, in particular from the previous state of their independence. This is what Ibn Arabi calls abrogation, meaning that the time period in which they held any sort of authority came to an end with Muhammad's arrival. They then continue to subsist in a new state, dependent upon the son of Muhammad's religion, son, S-U-N, of Muhammad's religion. And what does chapter 3 say? Right, so after explaining annihilation/abrogation and subsistence in chapter 2, in chapter 3, the author critiques Gregory Lipton's book, Rethinking Ibn Arabi, where Lipton leans towards an exclusivist interpretation. Hence, the title of the chapter, Rethinking Ibn Arabi, with a question mark. So he uses what we learn in chapters 1 and 2, and basically uses this understanding to slaughter Gregory Lipton. Gregory Lipton is a professor at High Point University in North Carolina. Okay, slaughter might be too strong of a word. But is it? You decide when you read the book. Dr. Abdel-hadi disagrees with Lipton's exclusivist understanding of Ibn Arabi, arguing that Lipton relied too much on secondary sources and missed some nuances in Ibn Arabi's original text. For example, Lipton sees the jizya, the tax paid again by Christian Jews and others who lived under Muslim rule, as a form of humiliation, while Dr. Abdel-hadi argues that Ibn Arabi saw it as a mercy, allowing non-Muslims to practice their faiths and what? Subsist. Yes, you got it. What about chapters 4 and 5? Once the author establishes that Ibn Arabi supports pluralism, in chapters 4 and 5 he explains the examples of how this looks. In chapter 4, Sun Worshippers and Polytheists, Dr. Abdel-hadi explores Ibn Arabi's views on non-Abrahamic faiths, like polytheism, and argues that Ibn Arabi saw spiritual significance in them. This chapter also challenges Lipton's idea that law and personal beliefs are separate, suggesting instead that Ibn Arabi saw them as interconnected. Chapter 5, Non-Prophetic Laws and Ways, is all about Ibn Arabi's respect for laws created by wise, non-prophetic sages, which he saw as important for society and morality. Now, what is my personal take on the book? If my take is worth anything, I think it's a very well-written book, especially for such a complex topic. Dr. Abdel-hadi did a great job making Ibn Arabi's intricate ideas surprisingly accessible. He provides a third perspective beyond exclusivism and pluralism, offering readers a fresh, nuanced view. Was the book easy to understand? I'd say yes, though it helps to have some background in Islam, or at least reading books on Islam where many scholars and their works are mentioned. Some sections, like the critique of Lipton in chapter 3, are very analytical and dense. This might feel a bit heavy if you're new to the subject. Did Dr. Abdel-hadi convince me with his argument? His evidence and interpretations are solid, but I do think the book would have been even stronger if he included responses from other Ibn Arabi scholars, like Sheikh Samir al-Nas, a scholar from Damascus who is entrenched in Ibn Arabi studies, and Hassan Spiker, among others. A broader range of voices might have made the discussion feel more balanced. And when will I be interviewing Dr. Abdel-hadi? Soon. I'll be interviewing him on Monday, November 11th, and releasing the podcast a few days after. If anyone has any questions for him, please drop them in the comments below. I'd love to include your questions in our conversation. Final thoughts? Just a big thank you for tuning in to this first episode. I hope you found it interesting, and I look forward to sharing more in future episodes. Don't forget to leave any questions you have for Dr. Abdel-hadi. See you next time. Happy reading, and until later.